the key component to all of this is creating the disciplines that allow you to let go. And it's a lot easier to let go or to have time or to block time the right way when you've created the discipline in your life to cut out the chaos and to have order. See, the opposite of order is chaos. And chaos is what you live in without discipline. But it means you have to think. You have to plan a little bit. You have to really guide yourself. And guess what? You're not always going to be right. Sometimes we guide ourselves into a path that we have to adjust or change. But that's okay. Part of letting go is growing. And you can't grow without actually letting go a little bit. Hate your job and you want out. Guess what? It's going to require new disciplines. It's going to require change. It's going to require uncomfortability. It's going to require you putting yourself in a position that you haven't been in before, and now you have to guide yourself.
We're at the last chapter. Can you believe it? Chapter 9, where it's time to let go. And even as I say let go, and I'm like, I don't know how other people feel about that as they are hearing this. How hard is it really for people to let go, and why do you think that is?
So the best, I start this chapter with a quote that I think is awesome. I'm going to read it. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. The reason I love that quote is because it reminds me of any time you have to let something go. See, every time we grow, we have to let something go. In order to grow to a new step, in order to get to a new part of a relationship, something that you were relying on before has to change or alter. The best example is parents watching their children go to college. All right, I have a child in high school and I don't have him going to college. I can only imagine the emptiness that my wife and I are going to feel when that energy, even some of that negative teenage energy, is out of the house. It's going to change the entire dynamic of our family. But in order for him to be successful and to be the human that we help to raise, he's got to go. He has to go. This is a challenge we see all too often in our society today, where this is what people are actually holding on so long. They're not letting children grow up. They're not letting them go. They're not allowing them to fail. They're not allowing them to actually do the very things. They're helicoptering all the way through their adult ages. It's painful and highly unsuccessful, and they will not work out the right way if we do that. So this chapter just puts that in perspective when it comes to business. It's no different. In order for your business to flourish without you, it has to actually be without you. And so if you're in the business and you want it to flourish with less of you, then you build systems and processes and you create discipline. See, everybody, and everybody meaning me and everybody I know, thinks when we're young that freedom is doing whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want. Right? I remember being able to stay up late for the first time and thinking, what do you mean, I don't have a bedtime? I don't have a bedtime? I'm just going to stay up until I want to. And, around 10 o'clock, you're like exhausted because you've been going to bed every night at 9 o'clock for all these years. And then you get to college and you have complete freedom. In the first couple weeks, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then you wake up and you're exhausted, you're sick, you're tired. You can't get out of your own way, right? We go through these transitions in our lives and we realize in business, okay? In business, when I started in business, I was so thankful that people would call because you're trying so hard to build a business that someone would call. You're like, yes, I'll talk to you right now. I have all the time in the world. And you become a firefighter. You're just putting out fires all day long. And eventually you have a couple hundred clients you're dealing with, and those fires are consuming your day. It's chaos. See, the opposite of order is chaos. And chaos is what you live in without discipline. So the key component to all of this is creating the disciplines that allow you to let go. And it's a lot easier to let go or to have time or to block time the right way when you've created the discipline in your life to cut out the chaos and to have order. But it means you have to think. You have to plan a little bit. You have to really guide yourself. And guess what? You're not always going to be right. Sometimes we guide ourselves into a path that we have to adjust or change. But that's okay. Part of letting go is growing. And you can't grow without actually letting go a little bit.
Discipline equals freedom. And you say that all the time. And I actually watched you do this, which is fascinating for me. You have been in the financial industry business for many, many, many years. And we started working together, I would say, is it 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years now? And about a year after we started working together, you got really busy. And I just remember thinking, how are we going to get all of the video things that you wanted to do in the horizon? How are we going to get all that done? It was hard to get on your calendar. It was hard to coordinate. And you made that happen. And so would you be willing to talk about some of the stress? So you talk about discipline equaling freedom now, but years ago you didn't necessarily have that. Am I correct in that?
Sure. And I think the interesting thing is this. You have it in different parts of your life, but it doesn't mean other parts of our life aren't going to be undisciplined. When we started this business that I'm in today, just under 6 years ago, here's the reality. The reality is you don't have the ability to have the entire staff that you want right out of the gate. So you're doing a lot of extra jobs and you're a bit chaotic. And I've also always been the kind of person that thrives with another human. I thrive, as a kid, if I had to clean my room by myself, it was miserable. But if somebody else was in the room with me, I could do it all day long. Like it would never, ever be a problem. Just being self-aware enough to know that I'll thrive with somebody guiding me and helping me organize all these ideas is really powerful. And so when I hired Renee, my EA in the office, she's way more than an executive administration type of position. She's the operations person. Same with our COO, Valerie. When Valerie started doing nothing but execution and COO work, the whole business got better. Our partnership got better. Our entire dynamic got better. But I had discipline in my early career. I noticed I was a firefighter and I was answering all those calls I was just talking about. And I hired 2 full-time staff members who were amazing. And for 15 years, we ran that business with precision and discipline. We did the same thing every month. We had the same events all the time. We had appointments at these times, and that discipline was great. But when we moved into the new chapter, without that discipline in all those same areas, without the same human capital, that can become different. It's a new journey. So finding the new discipline was very, very imperative. And so I think that's a really good point for this last chapter with letting go. You're going to move into a new chapter. If you are genuinely at the end of a job cycle, okay, let's just simplify this down to you hate your job and you want out. Guess what? It's going to require new disciplines. It's going to require change. It's going to require uncomfortability. It's going to require you putting yourself in a position that you haven't been in before, and now you have to guide yourself. So it's our job in our own worlds to identify what's going to make us most successful. And sometimes it's having the right person by your side. Sometimes it's hiring the right coach or consultant. Sometimes it's making sure the staff you bring on right out of the gate is exactly what you need, not what you think the business wants. These are the things that make us more successful. That 1 + 1 = 10 times works every day in my business. 1 + 1, Scott plus Val, huge, exponentially 20 times returns. 1 + 1, Scott plus Renee, huge, 20 times return. In my marriage, folks, this is the same when you're creating any relationship. In my marriage, without the 1 + 1 of my wife, there's no 10 times. There's no videos. There's no conversations about this. There's no book. Because at the end of the day, my 1+1 was 1,000 times better. And I only bring that up because all relationships are like that. And through the right discipline and knowing that it changes, just because you're disciplined at this stage, it doesn't mean you're going to be disciplined now. Just because I worked out 4 times a week when I was 25 doesn't mean that I know discipline. I understand discipline. Yeah. Are you working out 4 times a week now, Scott? No, you're not. So I don't know the discipline in that capacity today, so I got to get it back. We all fail at different things at different times in our life, but letting go is about executing and implementing all the things we talked about in this book in each chapter. Have you identified your top priorities to know what really a rich life is? What is freedom and what does it mean to you? How do you take those big rocks and prioritize them and drop them in the jar first, then the pebbles, then the sand, so that you've prioritized and you're able to fit more in your jar of life? How are you executing upon your impact today? What do you do right now that's making an impact every single day that makes you feel unbelievably great? How are you giving of yourself, your goods? How are you giving of what you have to give the world on a larger scale? Are you impacting anyone? If you died tomorrow, does a legacy continue? And when I say legacy, do people remember good things about you? It doesn't have to be so big of a word that you're scared of it. But where are you at with that legacy? And last but not least, when you're ready to execute, have you taken stock? Have you identified the steps it takes to execute? And can you let go? Can you actually let go and move on to that next chapter? That next chapter of a job, that next chapter of a company, that next chapter of starting a new endeavor. As an entrepreneur, you do this pretty well. I'm a fast starter, and so I have no problem moving quickly. But creating the discipline is something that I have to make sure I'm attaching to that move. And so that's personal. That's just me. But how are you doing that? That's going to be the key component and the key question.
I want to switch to something that I know that people are thinking, right? They're thinking that to reach that next step, right? Whether it's working on a local charity board, or seeing grandkids more, or living at the beach, that it really does come down to money at the end of the day. It does, right? You say that sales price is the bare minimum. So let's say I'm a business, I want to sell my business. So you say that the sales price is really the bare minimum, the starting point of the relationship between a seller and a buyer. And we've talked about that, and I'd love to hear more about your thoughts about that being the starting point. But what else do people need to prepare for if they are truly going to let go?
I think it's really simple. You know, a lot of us think about what we want, but we don't always execute. We talk about, again, I've talked about this quote a million times. It's not really a quote, it's a tagline. It's one of my favorites, and it's Nike's tagline of just do it. It's not just try it. It's not just think about it. A lot of people go through the exercises of self-evaluation. A lot of people actually even spend time thinking about what they would want to do, where they want to go, where they want to be in their life. They don't take any action. They don't take any movement. They don't start moving. The thing is that when you start moving, action will create activity, and activity will provide purpose. But until you're moving, you're living in the brain. You're living in your mind. Nobody else knows it even exists. Have you shared it with the world? Have you told anybody about it? I'm amazed at how many people go through major life decisions and have never talked to the masters that have done it before them. People in their own circle that would help them guide through exactly how they got through this. Never has there been a business owner that loved what they did and loves you as a friend that wouldn't share with you the struggle they went through, what they failed at, and what they would never do again. or what they would do right this time, or how they didn't let go efficiently and effectively early enough and it really impeded the process. The sales price is attractiveness. So the example is this. You're a young single person and you're walking down the street and you see someone attractive. It's a spark. It's an interest. It's something that gets you to notice them. But is there anything else? Is the personality a match? Is their core values a match? Is their family life a match? Is what they believe in what you believe in? There's so much more depth to that relationship, but if all you're focused on is the attractiveness, it's empty. The money is empty. Letting go is about actually creating a plan and executing upon that plan. And then knowing that there's going to be a lot of variables along the way, but you're ready for it because you set the plan. And you understand that life happens. It's not perfect. If you think it's going to be perfect, you're wrong. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, no matter what career change you make, we are going to be highly disappointed if we expect it to be perfect. We can expect excellence, but we shouldn't expect perfection.
As we wrap up this conversation about your book, what do you want people to know? What has this process been like for you? You've grown quite a bit. You've been, if you really think about it, you've been putting the 2 decades of work in the financial advisory business, and it has culminated in this. What do you want people to know about this process?
I think I wrote this book. I know I wrote this book to share it with the world. So what I want is somebody to get something out of it. What I want is one chapter, one story, one part that you read that you understand something differently in your life. Or through my failure, you understand that we've all been through this together. You know, I think a lot of times what holds us back is ourselves because we think we're in this world alone. And it's not until you realize that you're not that you can really be all you can be. And, you know, in the quote, in the conclusion, I say, St. Catherine of Siena says, "Be who God meant you to be and you will set the world on fire." And I really believe in that. I believe that, you know, part of this journey was about putting these words out to the world, then discussing them, then sharing them, then diving deeper into them, then evaluating how what we wrote might be something that we've grown from today. And from where I was when we wrote it to where I am today is different. I want to share that journey with you. And I want people to understand that it's all just to actually help reach my own human potential. I believe we're all put on this earth for purpose. And if your purpose is selfish and individual, it's empty. If you put your purpose to helping others and you're doing so with passion and discipline and excitement and all the things that really we talk about in this book, then your impact is going to be there. Then your rich life is going to be there. And the journey is going to be fun. You're not going to just be excited about the result or the end. You're going to be excited that it's just a new beginning. And I look at this book as that. The book is a start. It's a spark. It's the attractiveness. What else is in it? What other ideas exist? How can we help you with your next transition, with a transformation, with a challenge in your life? What are the things that really stand out that came from this, that sparked something that have much higher depth? And I hope that that's what this conversation can do for the end user, the end watcher, the end reader.